Dear viewers, many of you already read and appreciated my first book, How to Avoid Loss and Earn Consistently in the Stock Market. I am so pleased to find thousands of positive reviews across Amazon, Flipkart, Google, even in the YouTube comments. Now you'll be happy to know that my second book, Multibagger Stocks, is going to release on March 23. You can pre-order the book from Amazon at a very attractive price. In this video, I'll share the book summary of my upcoming book and also what will you learn from this book. Multibagger stock refers to the stock that generate multifold return on investment. So if a stock generates 100% return, we can call as a two-bagger. If a stock generates 3 times return on investment, we can call a three-bagger. If it generates 10 times return on investment, then we can call it as a 10-bagger, and so on. So the first chapter of this book is all about my journey with multibagger stocks. Since the last 10 years, in fact since 2010, I have discovered a lot of multibagger stocks. Most notables are like Chemcrux Enterprise, Lancer Container, which you can also verify from the publicly available shareholding data of those companies. Now, apart from Chemcrux and Lancer Container, I have generated multibagger return from a lot of other stocks like Gujarat Themis Biosin, Sirca Paints, SNL Bearing, SKP Bearing, Bombay Matrix, and so on. There are a lot of. Apart from that, I have also shared the wealth destroyers of my investment career. There are stocks like Servicer Food, MRSS, Focus Suites, Syntex Industries, and a lot more from where I lost money. The interesting point to note here is that probably in my investing career, the number of oil destroyers are higher than the multibagger stocks. Still, since the last 10 years, my overall portfolio generated more than 100 times return. Now you will ask, how that is possible? See, the simple reason is the downside is always limited, but there is no limit to the upside. What it means? Very simple. If you invest 100 rupees in any particular stock, so you can lose 50%, 60%, 70, 80, even if I consider 100%, still your loss is limited to 100 rupees itself. But on the upside, there is no upside limit. Again, to take an example, I have generated around 9 times return from Lancer Container and closed the position. As on date, I have completely booked profit from Lancer Container. In fact, I booked profit back in 2021 and 2022. So 100 rupees of my investment in Lancer Container turns to 900 rupees. So it simply means once my 100 turns to 900, that Lancer Container alone is sufficient to cover losses from 10, 12 other stocks. Similarly, my investment in Chemcrux generated 40 times return till 2022 end. Obviously, I booked partial profit in 2019, in 21 as well. And still at the end of 2022, Chemcrux is still my largest holding in the portfolio. Even as on current date, it is still the largest holding in my portfolio. Now from 2022, from to this time, the price corrected. The price is now moderated, but still it is the largest holding in my portfolio, and it is showing massive returns, such a return that it covers all the losses from my portfolio, whatever be the number of losers. The second chapter talks about the only formula behind multibagger stocks. You can pick any arbitrary stocks from the stock market and you will discover that there are only 2 factors behind multibagger return. What are those 2 factors? Simple. Expansion in EPS and expansion in PE ratio. If both the things happen simultaneously, expansion in earning per share and expansion in PE ratio, then the stock generates multibagger return. Why so? Well, for that you need to read the book, because in the second chapter I have shared a lot of examples from the Indian stock market itself that will help you to understand very clearly that it only requires PE expansion and EPS expansion for a stock to generate multibagger return. The next chapter talks about the triggers behind PE expansion and EPS expansion. So there are a lot of triggers that you need to remember and you need to figure out those triggers. Perhaps the most important trigger that I have noticed in my investing career is the margin expansion. You can choose any arbitrary stock, or you can have a look at any stock. If you notice that stock or the company experienced margin expansion in the last 3, 4, 5 years, then most likely the stock generated multi-bagger return for investors. Such a powerful is the margin expansion. Now in this chapter again I have shared a lot of examples from my investment and also from other stocks that how margin expansion alone can create wealth and how the opposite of margin expansion means margin contraction can destroy shareholders' wealth. Now apart from margin expansion, there are a lot of other triggers like death, then there are capacity expansion, geography expansion, diversification, and a lot of other things that you need to consider. So no single factor can alone make a stock multi-bagger. Obviously, you need to combine a lot of multiple factors. The more the factors, the more the positives is better for you. So in this chapter with lot of Indian examples, I have described all these things in a very simple language. The next chapter talks about how to avoid wealth destroyers. Well, if you are in the market for since the last 5-10 years, then you must lose money from this market. So losing money is not bad as long as you are gaining insight or as long as you are learning something. So before investing, you must keep a checklist so that you can avoid wealth destroyers. In this chapter, I have shared examples of wealth destroyers from my investment career. I have mentioned stocks like Sarveshwar Food, MRSS and few other examples, how I lost money and what I learned from it. After that, I have shared an elaborative checklist that every investor should keep in the mind to avoid loss or to avoid wealth destroyers in the quest of multi-bagger return. The next chapter talks about how long to hold a stock and when to sell a stock. This is also a very critical thing, and first I have shared my examples to clarify when to average and when not to average any particular stock. Now when to sell a stock, you must have to remember when not to sell a stock. I have noticed that many investors sell a stock or book profit after a certain return from the investment. Say for example, once a stock generates 100% return, many investors tempt to sell or to exit from that stock. Remember, that can be a very costly mistake. For example, I have invested in Chemcrux back in 2017 and by 2018-19 the stock generated around 100% return. But actually after 100% return, the valuation turned more attractive. So I invested more. So if I had exited from that 100% return, then today I won't end up with 30-40 times return from Chemcrux. Correct? So remember, whenever taking the decision like when to sell or when not to sell, don't consider the current market price and your purchase price. Never ever focus on your unrealized profit to make an exit decision. Price is just a number. It can happen that after a stock turns 2-bagger or 3-bagger, the valuation might turn more attractive. Okay, so never ever consider or never ever focus on stock price while you are considering your exit decision. Now, when to sell a stock? Then obviously there are a lot of factors I have mentioned in the book. The most important thing that I have learned and I have shared in this book is whenever you find the P ratio expansion of more than 100%, then that can be a good time to exit from a stock. What it means? Okay, simple. Say for example, the P ratio of a particular stock was 20 around a year ago. Now within a very quick time, within just 6 months or 8 months, the P ratio jumped from 20 to 40 plus. So if the similar thing happens very quickly, then that can be a good time to consider exit from your stock. Well, I have shared examples and lot of case studies to cover this chapter, so definitely you will like this chapter. The next chapter, idea generation and investment flow. Well, there are around 5,000 companies in the stock market. So from where to start? I have provided some insight what basically I do, and after that I have shared the case study from 2 of my portfolio stocks. Again, less of theory and more of practical examples so that anyone can understand the concept easily. The last section of the book covers important points to remember in your multi-bagger journey and frequently asked question. I have discussed an aspect that sooner or later, if you are in the quest of multi-bagger return, sooner or later you will lose money. Now, how you are reacting on those losing instance, that decides the success of your multi-bagger journey, or that decides the success of your wealth creation journey. Apart from that, I have mentioned the evolution of my portfolio strategy how I balance risk reward so that irrespective of the number of losers or irrespective of the wealth destroyers, my overall portfolio remains profitable. Finally, I have shared an elaborative checklist that will definitely help you in the multi-bagger journey in the stock market. The price of the book is kept very low at only $2.99 so that anyone can afford. On top of that, you can avail attractive discounts, so effective price will be lower than $2.99. Click on the link this is given in the description and in the pinned comment section to avail attractive discount. I am sure few hundred rupees investment in this multi-bagger stocks books can become the biggest multi-bagger in your investing career. See you soon. Happy investing.